Okay, hi. Let's see, it is Tuesday, February the 28th, 2017. This is 10 Steps to Higher Self-Esteem and Greater Happiness. This is week 6, and it is step 5. Week 6, step 5. Yeah, that's exactly right. No. Yes, week 6, step 5. And what we're talking about today is recognizing resistance. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about what I mean by resistance. First, let me review what we've done in the weeks leading up to this in the event that you're just joining us. In our first week, we just kind of got together to talk about what exactly we mean by self-esteem and why we would be interested in having a higher self-esteem. And the reason for that is that your self-esteem is a pattern, is a mold, if you will, by which the rest of your life fits into, and you cannot outperform your self-esteem. That's the bad news, but the good news is you can increase your self-esteem. You can make yourself a larger arena, a bigger pattern that you can grow into. So that the whole goal of this 12-week process is to look at where our limiting beliefs are, look at where our fears are, look at where we have looked into the eyes of the world for approval instead of listening to our own very sure and certain still small voice and the voice of our source and the voice of our highest self. And we start to look into the eyes of others for approval and we lose our way. And then we give up. We listen to people who say, oh, you can't have that dream. Well, what makes you think that you could ever accomplish that? Where are you going to get the money for that? Money doesn't grow on trees. So all of these things have been programmed into our minds our whole entire life and have constructed our idea of ourselves. And most of the time a lot of the things that we hear are not even true, but they get in our heads and they start to dictate our choices. And we live in a world, especially as women, where we spend a whole lot of our time trying to fit into someone else's ideal with our bodies, with what we wear, with the kind of cars that we drive. We're all very much physically oriented and feeling like this body is the boss and that the soul is taking the back seat, when the exact opposite is true. We are spiritual beings having a very short and temporary human experience. Our lives as eternal beings never began and never will end. They are eternal. We were not born, we didn't die, but we want to make the best and invest in our own growth and invest in the growth of the universe in this short, 80, 90, 100 years that we're going to be here. So that's the reason for wanting to increase your self-esteem. That wasn't supposed to be that long. So we're figuring out what we lost by looking outside of ourselves for what our true truth is, and going back and making a list of the things that we loved to do as kids and the dreams that we might have given up on because of listening to other people. And then devising a new dream for ourselves, reawakening our imagination and learning how to dream once again, and to get a picture for ourselves of the life that we would really truly love, and to stop settling and to stop living a conditional life, and instead of thinking, what can I do, what would I love? And the whole point of all of this is for us all to live our lives according to what we would love, and not according to our bank account, the balance on our bank statement, or our age, or our size, or our education. If you want it and love it and can dream it, then the universe can deliver it. We just have to get out of the way. And we talked about we tested our dream to see if it was still worthy of us. And we talked about deserving, about how we could never be more deserving. We are completely deserving just by our very existence as a child or daughter of God, but that we can most definitely feel more deserving. And we worked on writing some empowering statements, some empowering I am statements. I am worthy. I am loved. I am lovable. I'm beautiful. I'm slim. Whatever empowerment is necessary or is resonating with you at this time is what we did with those. And then last week we talked about knowing your fears. And it took me in my course of study with my coaches several weeks to identify what my fears were. They said, well, what have you done that you were afraid of? And I said, poo-poo, I'm not afraid of anything. But as you start to examine your actions and examine the things that are happening around you and the things that are manifesting in your life, this is how you know where your thoughts are. That your thoughts, you can look at the things that are in your life, your people, your relationships, your money, your health, your time and money freedom, all of those things. If you look at what they look like, then you can tell exactly the kinds of thoughts you have been thinking up until now. Now, the awesome news is that you can begin now to think in a different way and to create a new reality. So when you look back a year from now, things are different. Your health is different. Your relationships are different. Your bank account is different. Your abundance is different. Your time and money freedom is different. And we do all of this by creating a vision and living our lives in the direction of that dream. So today what we're going to talk about is recognizing resistance. The absolute honest to the undisputable truth is that you should have everything that you want. The only reason that you don't have something that you want is that there is some sort of resistance that is set up within you that is part of your pattern, that's part of your paradigm, that's part of your self-esteem. And the only way to have more is to ferret those out and think a new thought, create a new pattern to replace those old patterns. Now, I want to be really clear that we're not trying to get to your childhood traumas or anything therapeutic sounding like that. Our philosophy is that if you have a bucket and it's got muddy water in the bottom, you don't have to really kind of dig out the muddy water. Just pour fresh, clean water in, and it will flush out the mud and the gunk and the dirt, and eventually the vessel will be filled with all clear water. So we're not really worried about what's in there. We just want to kind of circulate it out and be done with it and recognize our patterns when they show up. If we were able to walk around and record ourselves talking all day, I think most of us would be very, very surprised at the number of negative comments that we make. And if we were to say, okay, this is everything that I say is truth, it would paint a very negative picture and not a very true picture. So it's important to be impeccable with our words. All right, so recognizing resistance is a lot like recognizing fear. Every subject is really two subjects. There is the want, say money, there's wanting, there's money, and then there's the lack of money. And a lot of us think that we are thinking about money, but we're really not. We're really thinking about the lack of money. And think about this almost as the difference between wanting and welcoming. Wanting, then feel the energy around that word. Oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's kind of intense, it's kind of negative, it's kind of constraining, it's kind of about lack. Whereas if you are welcoming, imagine that you're expecting a very special house guest and they're going to be there for dinner. And the things that you do to make your home ready for this house guest, you put beautiful clean sheets on the spare room beds and maybe some scented cachets, and you make sure that your good china is polished up and that you have great food and meals planned for this very special guest, and you do everything in your power to make welcome this very special guest. And this is the kind of energy that we want to have around manifesting our dreams. It's very subtle. It's a subtle difference. So yes, I want that, but we want to get into the feeling place of the vision of already having that. And then the manifestation arrives. And it almost begins to not matter at that point. When you decide that, say you want $100,000, just off the top of my head. You want to earn $100,000 in a year. Well, you figure out what that person does that earns $100,000 in a year. What does she wear? What time does she get up? What time does she go to bed? Where does she eat out? What kind of lifestyle is she living? What kind of words does she use? Who does she talk to? If you figure out all the ways that the person living this $100,000 lifestyle does, and you become that person, and you think the way that person does, and you feel the way that person does, when the $100,000 a year income arrives, it's almost as if, It's like a foregone conclusion because you're already used to being that person. So you are empowered to live in the happiness and the joy that you choose to live in the moment, regardless of the conditions. And then the conditions have to improve to match your vibration. So recognizing your resistance, if there is something that you want that you don't have, there is a resistant belief somewhere in your mind that you got to figure out what it is. And one of the things about money, especially, we were in our life mastery studies, we are in the month on abundance. And in the first week, we kind of talk about, and that's what your homework is going to be today, limiting beliefs that we have around money and around abundance. And in our class, I was thinking about our fairy tales and our literature and our cautionary tales, fables, and all of the things, and all of the evil people are rich in these stories that we've heard our whole lives, like the evil queen and the Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. And there's always been this separation of, well, rich people are powerful and mean, and poor people are sweet and good, and there's have even been a lot of teaching that having money is bad, having abundance is bad, that we were taught that money is the root of all evil, which is not accurate, is not what was meant to be taught, and that what was meant to be taught, and that is that the love of money and making money the goal instead of one of the channels and one of the perks of a beautiful, godly, spiritual existence instead of the beautiful, godly, spiritual existence itself, if that makes any sense at all. So we have, and you don't think of that. You don't go, oh, rich people are evil, but it might be in your head. And so having a look at the thought patterns that are going on that are dictating the things that you think and the things that you do is a very, very helpful experiment. So your homework for tonight is going to be to think up 5 limiting beliefs that you have about money or success or relationships, anything that you feel like is lacking in your life in any area. An example would be only thin people are able to find lasting love. Only people with a college education can be rich, can start their own business. Whatever, anything that is a limiting belief, write that down and then make up a new thought. Make up something that is different, that is the opposite. And so only thin people can find true love. Each and every one of us are divine spiritual beings that are matched up with the perfect person. The perfect person is out there for me somewhere, and that kind of thing. So 5 limiting beliefs and then 5 new thoughts that can replace those beliefs and help you to reach a higher vibration where all the things that you want are. So that's what we have for today. Next week, our topic is going to be recognizing resentments. We're moving into the area of forgiveness and hanging on to toxic thoughts that no longer serve us. So that's what we're looking forward to next week. I'm very happy that you joined me, and I don't, I'd see I'm not really the great multitasker. I see names pop up, but then they go away, and so here we are. But I'm so glad you're here with me. I hope that this is helping you, and if you want to catch up, go back and look at the old videos. If you have questions, feel free to email me, lauren@behappyfirst.org, or post a comment here on Facebook. However you want to communicate, send me smoke signals. I'll be here. Much love. Have a great week. Mwah.